housing, which is the recent, or over the years, we've had too many building collapse in Lagos, in Abuja, and other parts of the country. We still had one recently. Are there areas, or is there any way the ministry is looking at reducing this?
Of using what?
Of tackling the issue of building collapse.
Well, with respect, sir, building collapse is a matter in which the ministry is clearly interested, but it is also, in my humble view, a matter of law enforcement. Because, as I just said, there is a building code about what quantities, what parameters, and what materials can be used to construct a building. But once we have done that, the power of urban planning and building control is not a federal power. The Supreme Court has decided, in a case initiated by the Lagos State government, that urban development and building control is a municipal matter for each state. And what that means, therefore, is that once the broad guidelines are set, a building should stay up if people follow the law and build according to materials. So if people then get, for example, a permit to build a two-story building based on the substructure, they put 4 floors on it, the tendency is that it will collapse. It is the agency, which is the subnational government, that gives the permit, that is responsible for ensuring that the terms of those permits are complied with. And where there is non-compliance, we then have to look for who was either the architect, who was the builder, and who were the masons and the laborers who worked on that site, as to conduct an investigation, find out who did what right, and find out who did what wrong, and for those who did the wrong thing, then you hand them over to law enforcement. I remember in my time as governor, there was a building that collapsed around the Ishaga Road, and we started this investigation. It then turned out eventually that people were suddenly not forthcoming with the evidence that we needed. The developers suddenly seemed to disappear into thin air. So I make the point very clearly that until we find one of those kind of people and take them through a justice system that makes them explain in an accountable way what went wrong. Did you use manslaughter and so on, and sentence them if you find them guilty? Once there is one example. So what is missing is our ability to show one example. And it is also part of the corruption, because really, buildings in some other jurisdictions stay up. So why should the building come down if the right thing has been done? Clearly somebody has done the wrong thing. And as I said, the ministry is interested, but it is a law enforcement matter.
Yes, sir. We are actually speaking with the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing via telephone and not Zoom as earlier announced. Now, back to you, Minister. Some of the houses completed by the federal government in some states are still not allocated. What is causing the delay?
Well, there are a couple of things causing the delay. I take some responsibility because we finished most of the houses, but there are still a few things to do. In some places, we haven't finished the electrical connection to public power. In some cases, we haven't finished the internal road network. In some cases, we've had theft and pilfering, so we are replacing some of them. More importantly, I've been under pressure from a lot of people who want to buy. And we are working out an allocation process similar to what we did with the Lagos homes, where we do the advertisement online. You apply online. You don't have to know anybody. We want to reduce paperwork. We want to reduce the possibility that, oh, somebody knows somebody and that's why they got or did not get. We're also considering whether to make a reserve allocation to the state governments who gave us land for free, so that they can then decide how to dispose of that to their indigents or maybe workers, because they gave us the land free. So in places where we have a few dozen of houses, maybe a percentage to the state. So those are things we are working on, and we are currently developing the digital platform by which we will advertise and then offer for sale. Unfortunately, as I've continued to say, the procurement process at the federal level is a very cumbersome process, but it is what it is. We have to go through it so that we get it right.
All right. Now, Honorable Minister, roads are the economic bloodline of any nation. Indeed, when there are challenges in terms of roads, transportation is also affected, which in turn affects the economy. Many Nigerians are concerned that the condition of some major roads connecting one region of the country to the other are still not completed or undergoing construction, and these work seem to be lasting too long. For instance, we have the Abuja-Lokoja Expressway. What is the condition? How soon do you think work will be completed there?
I have had cause to say to people that government. So challenges are the continuing experience of nation building and nation development. And just 2 days ago, whilst we were addressing the press conference relating to the partial closure of the Third Mainland Bridge, I also had cause to say that even at that time, when there was oil boom in the 70s, the construction of the Third Mainland Bridge spanned 3 decades, essentially. It was started in the 70s, built through the 80s, completed in the early 19, the beginning of the decade of the 1990s. So when you say it's taking long to build a road, the Abuja-Lokoja road is almost 300 kilometers, being expanded from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. So if you do 300 kilometers linearly, right, times 4, you're talking of constructing almost 1,200 kilometers. You can't do that overnight. Then when you factor the other limiting considerations, how long it takes to procure, the realities of our economy today, that road, like many other roads, were inherited by this administration. They were left undone. At the time, we were selling oil for $140 per barrel. But it is the administration that has now committed to doing it when oil is less than $50 per barrel, that is suddenly now too slow. I just appeal to our people to be patient. What we are doing on every road is that in many cases we are rebuilding. And rebuilding requires us first to dig the road out, remove the laterite. Sometimes we dig as deep as 1 meter. So imagine you having to replace laterite over 300 kilometers of 3 lanes. So sourcing the laterite alone, transporting it, is a continuous process meter by meter until we finish. So that is why our roads are completed in sections. And you will see that some sections of the Abuja to Lokoja road have been completed. The last section, I think, is the section from Koto Cafe to Lokoja under Gito that we are trying to finish. The other sections have been finished. They've been put to use for some time, even before now. And that is what is happening on many other routes. Lagos, Ibadan, Enugu, Port Harcourt, some sectors have been completed, some have not been finished. Kano, Maiduguri, which is about 560 kilometers, large sections of it covering 120, 140, 130 kilometers have been finished. So, and the same thing is true of the Lokoja to Benin road. The Benin to Eho section has been completed. It's Eho to Ekpoma that is really problematic because we have to cut down the hill that was causing accidents. We also have to look for a place to now divert water. Ekpoma to towards Lokoja, a lot of progress has been made there. The contractor is still there. And as you know, in the last 3 months, we haven't been able to do any major work because of COVID and health challenges. And just on Monday, we just got the approval for the material. So when we pay them, they order it from suppliers who also depend on these payments to earn a living. But we will finish many of them. We plan to finish about 22 between now. We have planned 22 major roads to be completed between 2020 and 2021. We've lost 3 months, so we will have to revise that calendar a little bit. But the truth is that as we construct, people are actually experiencing a better journey time. And you see, these are the things I like to focus first on. Construction is empowering people at the base of the pyramid. Laborers, bricklayers, machine operators, food vendors are earning a living at all our construction sites. Instead of going to beg, they are going to work with their dignity intact. That's the first thing. The second thing is that on many of these routes today, the experience is better than it was when President Buhari was elected. On many of those roads, people used to sleep there. Not because there was an accident, the road was just impassable. So that has largely reduced. In many cases, it has stopped. Journeys that you could not take in a whole day, you could go now and come back. And I can name places like Benin or Esagamu, Lagos, Ibadan, Enugu, Port Harcourt. There are journeys that you approach with trepidation in your heart. But right now, you can go and come back, and we still haven't finished. So it will get better.
Well, so, okay. If you're just joining us, the program is Have Your Say, coming to you live on the network service of radio. And today, joining us via telephone is the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola. At this time, we'll be going for a short break. When we come back, we'll talk of the infrastructural sector in the country with the Honorable Minister. Stay with us.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
The National Center for Disease Control has informed me that a large proportion of new infections are now occurring in our communities through person-to-person contacts. So we must pay attention to the danger of close contact between person to person. At this, I will remind all Nigerians to continue to take responsibility for the recommended measures to prevent transmission, including maintaining physical distancing, good personal hygiene at home,